here's a weird story for you.
We have a rabid can of Cheese Whiz in the White House.
We share 41% of our DNA with bananas?
Dear me.
Hilarious.
Listen to this.
It's talk radio for an up-late nation. This is Canada's all-night conversation. The Shift.
I'm Shane Hewitt, 877-399-9898. Your calls, your texts are welcome. The Canada Revenue Agency has shut down online services after cyber attacks exposed thousands of accounts. Man, oh man, oh man. So they've temporarily disabled online services from what has been reported as two separate cyber attacks that compromised the accounts. In a statement, the CRA said that it had disabled the services as an additional precaution. Hey, Ray, can you do me a favor, bud, and grab that audio from the script there, second hour?
The Canada Revenue Agency just shut down all online services after thousands of accounts were breached in cyber attacks. Anyone trying to log into a CRA account is met with this message telling them the service is not available. That means right now Canadians are not able to apply online for emergency COVID-19 funding, such as CERB. Hackers were able to access thousands of accounts using a technique called credential stuffing. It relies on databases of previously stolen login information.
So there it is. The storyline is written for you. Joining me now to talk about this is Hank Fordham, Hank the hacker from Centurion Defense in Calgary. Hank is a white hat hacker. That means that Hank's mission is to educate people about hacking, let people know when things are exposed. Hank, where the heck were you a few days ago when all this was happening, my friend?
No doubt, eh? Thanks for having me on again, Shane.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on and talking about this. So let's dig into this. First of all, what happened? I mean, you know this from the angle of the hacking. You know, was it a big vulnerability? The credentials stuffing is very simple. Is that the bad guys get someone's credentials from a previous hacker information leak? They just try it everywhere. And so what happened here?
Well, I think this is a really good example of what happens when credential stuffing starts to hit the financial sector. And I don't think this is going to be the last instance of that either. And the surprising thing is the amount or little amount of technological know-how and the small amount of training it could have taken to mitigate this. And the reason it's only going to get worse is because it's not a very complex thing to carry out. I think that it was pretty easy, considering they could have either bought dedicated lists of usernames and passwords off of the deep web, or even carried out their own dedicated phishing campaigns.
Yeah. Now, there was a lot of it. There was thousands of these that were admitted by the CRA that were affected. So is it possible that if there was that many, then it's most likely, I guess, information that they traded for or bought? I would suggest online, because I mean, that's an awful lot of credentials to be able to get that, all Canadians to dig into those things. So you said it's easy to mitigate, Hank. How does this mitigate? How is it mitigated?
Well, I think even following the same steps as Google with Nest would be a good idea. After I suggested to them forcing two-factor authentication for every user, they finally took the advice this year, and that's now a feature. And I think if the CRA would take the same advice and make two-factor authentication a forced feature for every user, it would make attacks like this a lot more difficult to carry out.
So do you know from this what areas of the CRA were impacted? Because I have a texter asking this question right now, and it was one of the questions I was going to ask you. Were there any cyber attacks in the big banks in Canada? Because all of my online banking is down tonight. I can log in, but I can't do any transactions. It comes up as just not available at the moment. So for security reasons. So, if it's the CRA, and maybe this different because they use the banking information for login access, don't they?
Yeah, and that's the alarming thing, is that I think some banking info was kind of compromised in this attack. I think not directly, but in terms of being able to, register for a CERB payment and have it redirected to a malicious user's bank account, or even having maybe a child supports payment redirected to a malicious bank account.
So is there any way to tell from, I maybe I don't know how to ask the question. Is there any way to tell, how can you tell if the bank's things have been hit? Because the last time I checked into CRA login, you used to use your banking information to get in there. So how is it possible that they don't get that if it's all encrypted? And if they're doing stuffing, I know in my particular case, if they're stuffing what's going on there, my sign in, because they've got the sign in partner. That's what it is. So, use your bank information to get into that. Now, my banking information is different. The one thing that I do right, I don't do a lot of things right in the world of passwords, but the one thing that I do right is that my banking information is different than any other password. And
that's smart.
Yeah. So how is it possible that, that this is even, how can they not cross those wires, Hank?
Well, it's hard to say what information exactly was gained in this attack, and I think in terms of if you've been kind of one of the unlucky people to have one of these payments compromised, like redirected, or maybe even signed up for under your account, I think the CRA is working pretty diligently to make these users aware, and they were pretty quick about disabling the service once the accounts were affected.
So what else is going on in the world right now? Because we are seeing, different activity. I received a login attempt, a successful login on my, one of my Spotify accounts. I had a couple back in, I have a couple email addresses, so I was cheap a long time ago. I signed up for a Spotify account. I ran out the freebie, and then I signed up for a different one with a, when they give you the incentive of, get whatever days for whatever. And did it that way. And, I was just being cheap. Anyway, so one of my personal email addresses got a login attempt today, and it was in France. And then about 5 minutes after that, there was another login attempt in Israel. That's what the email from Spotify said. And I double checked them. And I was like, wait a second, is this phishing campaign? So I double checked them on the computer. All the URLs were Spotify. Everything was Spotify. So I logged in and I kicked out everybody. Right. I did the login and it said log out of all devices thing. So I did that part. Then I changed my password. And then I got an email from Spotify about 5 hours later that said suspicious activity on your account. Change your password. So I double checked everything again, did it all again, and but just used a nondescript, huge, long password. One of those auto-generated big, long honking ones.
Yeah.
And went that way. So I guess somebody got into the account somehow.
Well, yeah, and Spotify is actually a really big target for credential stuffing right now, and there's a few reasons for that. And I guess the lowest reason is that people are just stealing a lot of premium accounts to resell them, but people are also stealing premium accounts so that they can redeem things like free Google Home Minis. Every so often, Spotify might give out Google Home Mini to every new premium subscriber, and so a lot of hackers will tend to resell those. Another possibility is kind of going back a few years to, I guess not a hacker, but a guy in Bulgaria who registered some fake music, and he actually made like playlists on Spotify, and he purchased I think it was 1,000 premium accounts, and then he just made them all go listen to his music. And so he was able to clear like $300,000 from that legally. And I think that when that story hit the news, it kind of made Spotify a bigger target for hackers because, if you have any kind of lead in the music industry, or if you're able to register any of this like fake music or static tracks, then it's really easy to make a big profit by sending some of these hacked accounts to listen to your tracks.
Interesting. So I make my own music. So we are the Hank and Shane band, and we put together a couple of albums. They're probably crappy, but we get them on. Clearly Hank is a better singer than Shane is. We get them on Spotify, and then we have 10,000 accounts that we've hacked. We build playlists to play. and they're literally running somewhere on some machine, streaming our music nonstop. So we're getting a couple of pennies per spin.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really not that hard. Like my dad, he has music on Spotify, Kelly J with Crowbar. I remember you asked me about him, I think last week. And, every, I think it's 30 seconds to 45 seconds kind of registers for royalty payment. So that it takes not a lot of time or effort at all.
Huh. So if you could create a bot that would just constantly change the songs, right? Every minute?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what they do.
Huh. That's amazing. The ingenuity really is quite amazing, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And you see new things coming out every day, like on the deep web with them releasing APKs that give you access to premium. We're actually doing a tour on the deep web with CenturionDefense.ca. We'll be uploading a new series for demystifying the deep web, taking a little bit of a tour.
So one of the things that a texter had said, and they raised a really good point, is that I always log in directly without partners. That's probably a good thing, Facebook login or use your Facebook login to access something else.
Yeah.
Because that does slide your information over too, by the way. That's a whole other thing. But the first pet name, mother's maiden name, all those are pretty simple, man. It's not hard to find out my mom's maiden name. So are these the kinds of questions? Now, this seems like an old and antiquated security system, but should we lie about those and maybe use a friend's dog name or something like that? Is that the kind of solution we should be working on?
Yeah, why not? I mean, the more obfuscated you can get when you're creating a password, the more of an advantage you have, and the more educated you are with, cybersecurity and better practices online. I think the more advantage you have in general with protecting yourself from things exactly like this.
One of the things that I've noticed is that if I leave a letter out of a password, right? So if my password was crowbar, and then I just left out the A, right? So it's Krober.
Yeah.
It's like I was from the East Coast, with the Krober. So what, are those reasonable solutions to set people off, or do we need to, go with a big long honk and hash this exclamation point that?
Albeit just being a word without any numbers or symbols, I think, yeah, you're on the right track. And that's along with the more you can obfuscate or really kind of trick your password up, I guess, or try and trick people, the better. And another reason for that is so that people can't try and use brute forcing against you using common words or trying to generate a word list based on, like you said, maybe animals that you own or places that you were born instead of your friends' animals or places your friends were born.
I mean, it seems silly. We go and we post about our pets on Instagram or Facebook all the time. Like, here's little Stevie, my Great Dane. And, and then all of a sudden someone goes and logs in and they go, little Stevie 1975. Like, that wouldn't be hard to figure out.
I was able to guess my friend's password the other day pretty quickly, just by kind of looking at their pets' names and some lucky numbers, I guess you could say.
Really, hey? Did you tell your friend this, or was it, this is what hackers do for drinking games, or what?
I asked for permission.
Oh, okay. Just checking. I never know. I just imagine a bunch of hackers at a party. And everyone puts $5 on the table, and the first one to hack their friend's accounts gets the pot. It'd be like hacker poker. Hey, we could be onto something.
I mean, you're not that far off. That's how Zuckerberg started Facebook.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he would have little parties and do capture the flags, and the first one to get the flag would get hired. They probably overspiced it in the movie, but
yeah, that they played it out like that. So what are we seeing going on the web right now? What are our biggest things other than Spotify? Is there anything else going on? The CRA gets hit. Clearly Shane's Spotify gets hit. What else is going on that we should be aware of?
Man, I think ransomware is making a startling appearance, and especially right now, considering everyone's working from home. And having said that, I think one of the biggest kind of advantages you can give yourself is trying to again get educated with best practices online, being able to notice a malicious email when it comes to you, or even a malicious phone call. I got an email today offering $15 million, and that's obviously fake. But I also got an email the other day that looked like it was from PayPal. And people are even able to spoof emails and make it look like it was sent from a legitimate sender. So it's a good idea to kind of hover over links or copy the link in your email and make sure that you're not going to a malicious website.
And that's just checking the URL to make sure it makes sense?
Yeah.
All right, there it is, spoofing, hacking. And I would lose my radio membership card here if I didn't ask you, Hank, what was the strangest thing that you've eaten in your life?
Oh, man, I heard you asking that, and I'm not going to be anywhere close to the lawyer with, the unknown Mexico food, but can I cheat and go with the weirdest thing I ever drank?
Sure.
Have you ever heard of Ramune?
No.
It's like this pop that to open it, you have to push a marble through the lid.
Uh-huh.
It's the weirdest pop ever. It's like a Japanese drink.
Uh-huh.
I guess the weirdest thing I ever ate was a sucker with a scorpion in it. I don't have too many
Yeah, that's weird. I think that's weird, dude. I think that's more than weird. That's qualifies on the weird scale. No problem.
Oh, sweet. There we go.
So we just had one text come in. And maybe you can just comment on this before we let you go here. Just think of a random sentence that you can remember and use the first letter of each word as your password. Like, my mom likes purple socks on Tuesdays. And
That's
then
genius.
rotate capitals and lowercase letters. My mom, MML, P for purple socks on Tuesdays.
Fit a symbol and some numbers in there and you're golden.
Right. That's good. I like that one. The sentence is really, really good. That's a great way to do it. I might try that.
Hey, I wouldn't now, but.
So there was another one about swapping letters for numbers. I mean, that's kind of old school sort of QWERTY keyboard, geekery stuff where your E becomes a 3. I mean, that's pretty common now.
The scary thing about that is even if you just go basic and say if I just did Hank Fordham and replaced the A with an @ and the O with a 0, there's tools that are specifically developed to generate password lists that will match that kind of an obfuscation pattern. So you really want to get tricky with it, like you're trying to beat a bot.
So that was a good idea some time ago, but now you're battling a robot when you're doing it.
Yeah, you're on the right track, but play with a little more.
There you go. All right. Thanks so much, Hank Fordham from Centurion Defense in Calgary. If you want to take the tour on the dark web, just Google Centurion Defense Calgary and you'll see that one and see what the tour looks like. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you so much, Shane.
You betcha. Talk to you soon. Hank Fordham from Calgary. He's a white hat hacker. He really claimed to fame when he was in on the Nest hacks. And he was logging in to these Nest devices to let people know they had been hacked, mostly businesses. It was intended as businesses. Turned out there was a realtor who had used a business on his personal address, classic realtor, right off the home. And what happened was he ended up scaring the crap out of the guy. So they ended up on Dr. Phil together talking about it. And here we are, White Hat Hacker, Hank Fordham. Thanks for being there. Okay, 877-399-9898. I'm Shane Hewitt. Some of your calls and texts of all the different things